That's where I'd seen it.
Must be doing something just this, yeah.
Yeah, see there you got the time down there.
All right.
Go ahead.
No place?
Nope, I gotta go to work after this. I gotta go to work at 11.
Yeah,
Okay, you guys are on camera
my
now,
good
so.
job.
maybe you're on TV.
Yeah. No, nothing on the agenda for today.
All right, well, welcome. I'm going to call the public hearing to order at 10:05 a.m. on Thursday, the 20th of February. And the first thing I will do is read from our public hearing notice a legal description of the project. Knowing that you two are familiar with it, I'll make that as quick as possible. And then we'll open up for discussion or any questions. SSC Oswego LLC, a Florida limited liability company, submitted an application to the IDA requesting that the IDA consider undertaking a project consisting of the acquisition of a leasehold interest in approximately 58.7 acres of real property located at 8341 State Route 104 in the town of Oswego, county of Oswego, state of New York. A2, the construction on the land of approximately 35-acre solar farm, including but not limited to solar panels, inverters, transformers, switchboards, and other equipment, and creating an access road. A3, the acquisition and installation in and around the facility and or for use in connection with the project of various machinery, equipment, furnishings, and other items of tangible personal property. B, the granting of certain financial assistance in the form of exemptions from real property taxes. C, the lease or sublease of the land and the facility by the company to the agency pursuant to a lease agreement, the acquisition by the agency of an interest in the equipment pursuant to a bill of sale from the company, and the sublease of the project facility back to the company and or the owner of the land pursuant to a sublease agreement. The company will be the initial operator of the project facility. The IDA has not made a decision with respect to the undertaking of the project or the granting of the financial assistance. And I'll put in more plain language that description of financial assistance is that the company, the project owner, the solar developer in this case, has applied for a pilot agreement, as you know, as well as exemptions from state sales tax, both of which are eligible under the New York State General Municipal Law, and the IDA, of course, is the body in Oswego County that can choose to grant or not grant those benefits. As I mentioned, the IDA has not made a decision with respect to this project. We have a meeting scheduled for next Thursday at 9 a.m. at our offices at 44 West Bridge Street. They're public meetings, and at that time, the agency will be considering this project. Any feedback or comments received at this public hearing will be brought to the IDA board for their consideration when considering the project and what to approve or not to approve. I guess with that being said, I'll open it up to any questions or discussion.
We received a letter from IDA.
Yes.
And it kind of said, you just said in that, what you just said, that they haven't made the decision, but it sounded like the letter that I got, it was all positive. And a decision was made.
Right. So what happens in the IDA's approval is it's basically a two-step approval. So at the last meeting towards the end of January, the board accepted the application as a project. It's a bit of let me call it a technicality under New York State law. We go out to our external counsel for their review of the project to make sure that it's eligible. They recommend to us yes or no, is it eligible for these benefits or not. So just being eligible doesn't mean that anything is approved. So in that letter, we talked about some of the aspects of the project, positive aspects that the board would consider.
Okay. I just checked.
But until next week's meeting, none of the benefits
positive.
have been granted. Yeah. Yes, correct. And what the company has applied for the pilot agreement and so on will be reviewed in detail by the board next week. Potentially, sometimes what's applied for, the details of what they asked for aren't exactly what's approved. Sometimes the board can go back to the company with basically a counteroffer, some type of negotiation.
And I thought part of this meeting was they were going to discuss the pilot program.
Right. The pilot agreement that the company has requested is what's typically done in New York State per basically the recommendation of NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Agency, is that solar developers propose a pilot agreement based on the number of megawatts that will be planned to be produced by the development. In this case, it's a 5 megawatt development. What the company has requested is to pay $2,500 per year per megawatt. And it's 5 megawatts, so that's $12,500 per year. The current taxes, excluding any special district taxes, is about $2,800 per year on the parcel that they're plan to develop. And then, so at $12,500 per year, that's in year one, and then they've asked for a 1.25% escalator, so that there'll be an increase every year. It would be on this, more or less, it'd be on this schedule rather than based on the assessment of the property, which is where the pilot agreement comes in. It breaks that connection between the assessment and the taxes that are charged.
They made this suggestion for the 1.25% increase, right?
Yes, they did, in their application.
Who makes a decision whether they're gonna accept that pilot or not?
That's what the board will be, the IDA board will be discussing next Thursday.
I see,
Yes.
okay.
And we've approved, the IDA has approved other solar projects in the county. The requests have been, there's a range of those requests. What the company has requested is within sort of a recommended range.
Is it the 1.2% seems kind of low on the escalator, but is that kind of low on the other companies that have done it?
It's lower than other projects the board has approved, so I'm sure that will.
That'll be a question the board will
Yes,
come up
absolutely,
with.
because they're going, I know what we'll be discussing on Thursday, we'll be looking at the history, and we're trying to find some consistency in the approval of these projects so that we have something of a
Yeah.
standard. So 1.25 that they've applied for and is currently in our
You have to
our
make a
letters and so on.
suggestion.
Yeah, right. What would you, do you have a suggestion of what you'd like to see?
No. But I was
It
wondering
seems a
what they
little low.
based it on, because, you know, you're looking 25 years ahead. The money thing usually is about 2% inflation. Is it
Mhm. Right.
1.5 or 2%? I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose some historical average.
Nobody knows.
Right,
till it's
nobody
over.
knows, yes. And property taxes, the rates go up and down, of course, the assessments tend to increase over the years too, as property appreciates.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised, since it's partially to do with taxes, how come nobody from the towns here really, that it relates to taxes?
We've notified all the taxing authorities, so the town, the county, and the school district. And
So they could have an input.
we informed them about this meeting as well. They could, and they also can provide input either in person or in writing by the meeting next week. Yeah.
But our attorney for the planning board kind of told us what you're saying.
He
For
went
the
through the
amount
same
of stuff, you
yeah,
know, that
yeah.
was in that range, and that's what the companies,
But I think the board will look at some of the past approvals as well and try to maybe narrow down that range for this county.
what is the overall view of the IDA on solar for the county?
Generally speaking, we support it. It's part of one of the state's initiatives for clean power. We're particularly favorable to projects that use land that doesn't have it is either unused today or doesn't have other really potential development for housing or other commercial or industrial development. And we've had there's been projects in both cases. In this case, there's some farming activity on the land that's considered to be used, nominal.
It's hard,
Yeah. Minor, right, maybe some hay, yeah. Mhm. So, that's one of our considerations, is looking at the potential, really with any product, what is the best, or a project, what is the best use for the land or the building that's involved? In this case, plain land, open land.
So on agricultural land, are you setting any limits as to type of soil that you're not gonna let it on? Have they done any of that yet?
That's a good question. No, we haven't. We haven't put any of those kind of restrictions in place. No. Yeah. Interesting question.
Well, I
These
think, it's a good thing, and it's good for the farmland in the county, because, Oswego County farmland isn't real conducive for this new agriculture that we got.
Right.
Because the soils aren't the best, the fields are small, stony, and it's a good way of evoluting from agriculture to something else. And agriculture, actually, if you come right down to it, farms the sun. That's the whole purpose of agriculture, like I'm a fruit grower now.
Mhm.
And the important thing, we try to farm the sun. And so this is doing the same thing,
I suppose that's true.
you know?
Some of the feedback we've heard from the agricultural community is that leasing a portion of their land, or maybe one parcel of several that a farmer may own, or a farming family, that lease income helps them stabilize their farming operation, because it's a guaranteed income. They can use it to pay some of their fixed costs on the farm.
There was an article in the Wall Street Journal about a month ago about out west that farmers consider solar just another crop.
Very interesting, yeah.
You know, it
Mhm.
kind of, what you're saying,
Mhm.
it's important to keep the farm business going.
Right. It almost can become a subsidy for that individual farmer.
Well, not a subsidy, but it's another crop.
Another source of income, I guess, yeah, another stream of income.
Balance things out.
It's guaranteed, really, as far
Yeah,
as that goes,
yeah.
for the period of the lease.
So I think it's a great thing.
Thank you.
Our planning board's approved it
So I understand.
tentatively, subject to a variance, because we don't have anything in our zoning that stipulates you can have solar. But it doesn't stipulate anything, so it assumes that you can have it.
I see.
But still,
It is not, it's not either, it's neither allowed nor prohibited, I guess.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
See, so, but we still, as a planning board, said, let the zoning board take a look at it. Should be no problem, but
Good process.
you never know, you gotta go through the process.
Mhm. Right, and that helps set the path if there's another one in the town of Oswego in the future, I guess, too. So this is consistent. Very good.
I think it's a good thing for the agricultural land, because it's gonna, where else you gonna be able to put solar but on farmland someplace?
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
where the open land is,
Mhm.
the farmers own it.
Absolutely. The project still, what happens is that the developer gets the approval from the town, the IDA, et cetera, and then, but they're also in the middle of a process with National Grid to negotiate the costs to connect to the grid to feed the power back into the system. So that's ongoing as well. While we're working on all these things here locally, they're working with National Grid. The developer pays for an engineering study, and National
Yeah.
Grid does their analysis and determines what additional equipment may be required, or what that will cost the company as well.
So what input do you get from the agricultural, like, is there a group of people that has to do with the ag districts in the county? I haven't kept up with it, so I don't know if there's
Really, who I've spoken to is individual farmers that have talked about these projects on their land. I know that a lot of farmers in the area have been approached by this solar developer and others for potential projects. So we don't.
But my question is, who do you go to for input besides the farmer? Is there an agricultural district committee in the county? There used to be, but I don't know if there is
I am
now.
not certain. I mean, Cornell Cooperative Extension may be one, but we don't.
No, they aren't.
Yeah, I don't know if I just don't know. The Soil and Water Department maybe.
No,
Something else, yeah.
there used to be. I used to be the county agent here for 34 years.
Oh, I see, really?
So I'm the one that started up the ag districts way back.
Gotcha.
And there was a committee then, but I had lost, I think there's, I don't know who,
Something I can look into, I just don't know, and we haven't been in contact with them.
see, there must be a committee, because they can make applications to be in an agricultural district, I think during January of each year.
Oh, I see.
And it has to go to that committee, so there's gotta be a committee someplace
Mhm.
in the county that, but I lost track of it.
Yeah, I just don't know. Well, it's something to know, that's something to look into.
Yeah.
Good to get some more input as these projects come along. Evelyn, any questions or comments?
Well,
Okay.
no, I'm good.
Judy?
No, I'm good, thank you. As we say, we're happy to see them come to the town and
Okay.
generate some money on a piece of property that's
Yeah.
not making a lot of money right now.
Because I think bottom line, that's how the IDA sees these projects in general, and they'll look at what's been requested and potentially fine tune it. I can't say, I'm not on the board, but yeah, it certainly will be, I know that will be a topic of discussion for
Yeah.
sure.
And that's our concern, you know, I think that's our bottom line, is to see the town generate some additional revenue
Right.
from a project.
Right.
So,
Very good.
great, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, with no further comments.
Well, I think,
Go ahead, Emma.
just one, that, certainly anybody would be welcome to come to that IDA meeting, should they have any other questions.
Sure.
I know that we had, the last time at the IDA meeting, we had, school district, somebody represented the school district, and, we had various people, concerning other projects, but they show up and ask the questions about the pilots and things like that, so that would be the place to do that, if they wanna come and do that.
Right. Next Thursday at 9 o'clock, the 27th.
You got a meeting tomorrow in Volney, right?
Yes, that's a different solar developer, but a
Yeah.
similarly sized project.
Who's a solar developer on that one?
It's a company called AMP Solar Development, and it's really two companies that one owns the other, but Omni Navitas. They're out of Mississauga, Ontario, and Boston.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the first time we've worked with either of these developers in Oswego County, but they both have done other projects in New York State, to my knowledge. Okay, if there are no other further comments or questions, I'll close the meeting here at 10:20.
Very good.
Thank you all for your attendance and
Thank you.
comments.
Are you located in the county building?
We're in, let's get the camera off.
Yeah.